Hey guys, my name is Dan and this is Stout Gaming. As you may notice, my intro to this video is on the selection screen that's going on as opposed to ahead of time. And that's mostly because I didn't have time to record an intro because my flight was delayed coming back in yesterday, so I didn't have enough time to do that, gen a team, and sleep before my early morning match. So we're doing it on the fly. But what I'm looking at for Curry's team game 1 is I think he's going to try and lead Cole, which this Tangela Gudra is basically designed to beat, and then I want to put up Trick Room in the back. The question is, do I want Torkoal or Glastrier? And either one seems like a reasonable answer here. Torkoal will have a better matchup against the Steela and potentially the Volcrona. That's sort of split because if Trick Room is up, Glastrier should be able to take care of that. But Glastrier in general has more bulk and is a bit more solid overall, so I go for Glastrier this game. But going into the match, I'm expecting a really good set. Curry is the opponent that I probably least wanted to see in round 1, just due to how solidly he plays and his unorthodox builds. I knew he'd have something that I wasn't ready for, even though I tried my best to be ready for everything. But let's go ahead and see what's going on in this match. So the Inteleon Colossal lead, yeah, this is basically ideal. I Rage Powder and Max Quake the Cole slot every time here, and I feel pretty good about it as well. Now, theoretically, if this is negative attack nature, mid-attack Inteleon, and the Colossal has some bulk, this doesn't KO. So this will tell me a little bit about the spreads, the bulk, all that, which is going to be very nice moving forward. But this is the lead that made me put Focus Sash on the Tangela as well, because I want to force an Aqua Jet into the Tangela after this happens. Because then, if the Cole survives, he has to Aqua Jet the Tangela because of the Rage Powder threat. And then Gudra eats one attack from Cole and KO's back, and then he's down to Dynamax. He's got Rocks up, and I've still got one more turn of Dynamax Gudra. That should be at +2 at that point in front of an Inteleon, so the Ice Beam there is not going to threaten me, and no special attacker is either. But he does Aqua Jet his own Cole, he reveals the goggles on the Inteleon, a Steam Engine goes up. That did maybe a little more damage than I was expecting for the amount of bulk he needed to survive this. So there's a chance he just goes down here. The Flare here into the Tangela takes me to my Sash. And now we're going to see exactly how much Life Orb physical Max Quake into this Cole slot is going to do. And the answer is it just picks up a clean KO. So this Cole either just had two really bad rolls or isn't as bulky as I thought it was going to be. So Cole's basically just not a threat this match because now I know Gudra can pick up the KO on it pretty cleanly. So I'm in an excellent position this game. Depending on what he has in the back, the Steela dies to this Gudra's Max Flare. Mimikyu is probably the best thing that he could have. So I've got a couple things to think through here. Technically, I'm still just going to eat an Aqua Jet with the Tangela, but if I don't, I would love to break the disguise on Mimikyu and get an attack off into it. This Inteleon, because I'm at +1 special defense on Gudra, is not going to threaten to damage this Gudra, whereas the Mimikyu could. So I think the play here is to try to break the Mimikyu's disguise and then go for the KO with it. But I could also see a world where picking up a second KO and then relying on my late game to beat Mimikyu is okay. But I'm glad that this is the play I went for, because this Mimikyu reveals to be the set that I wasn't expecting this week because it's got Bulk Up. Now, Bulk Up Mimikyu has the potential to be a real problem for my team. I can Max Quake it, break the disguise, but it can it can kill a lot of stuff now. Like my Bronzong, for example, was designed to live Adamant, Life Orb, Max Phantasm, but a +1 Shadow Claw, I actually don't believe I necessarily live that, which is an issue. I definitely don't if it maxes, but it can't max. But that's for the future. But here, the Torque Hole would have been sort of nice, I think, but I have to decide if I just want to go straight into Glastrier or try to get Trick Room up, but I don't think I can get Trick Room up, is the thing, cleanly. So, I've got an interesting conundrum here. If he wants to Will-O-Wisp the Glastrier, I'm Lumberry this week, so I don't feel too bad about that. But I kind of want to start picking up a couple other KOs. This Max Strike, not Max Strike, this Smart Strike might do decent damage into the Mimikyu, but probably doesn't pick up the KO while it's at +1. But I don't think Mimikyu KOs me while Goodra's still maxed either. So overall, I'm okay with this setup, even though it's not great. I think the double up here should guarantee the KO unless he protects. At first, I'm like, I just read him, this is the game, I'm feeling great. Then I just see he was going for a double, which is fine. He mitigates a little bit more damage. I get some decent chip, well, not really decent chip. I get a tiny bit of chip on the Mimikyu. It still probably doesn't put it into Smart Strike range, but it is in double up range now, definitely. But now that Goodra's not max, +1 Mimikyu threatens to KO it with a Play Rough, and I don't have Protect on Goodra. So, what I'm thinking here is Smart Strike for chip, maybe get a KO if I get a lucky high roll or a crit, and then I want to put the Goodra into Bronzong, because I'm projecting a Play Rough into that slot, and I'm okay with that. So, Goodra comes back, Bronzong comes on out. Inteleon uses Soak, so this Smart Strike is doing considerably less damage now. But the Play Rough is also doing less damage, and Bronzong eats that up. I don't know if I survive a +1 Shadow Claw that isn't Stab, and I'm not sure if I want to risk it either. It might be the correct play with how much bulk this Bronzong has to, knowing that it's not Stab, just go for the Trick Room here. But again, that feels a little risky to me as well, when a high horsepower into that slot is going to do a decent amount of damage, and I could pretty cleanly switch into the Goodra as well. Interesting targeting decision, but this Inteleon I don't actually think is threatening. Like, the Trick Room, I really strongly consider the Trick Room, because I might get it up with non-stab Shadow Claw at +1. Celesteela coming out is a little unfortunate. Like, with this setup, I really wish that Glastrier was a Torkoal, because just clicking, well, I don't know if clicking Eruption would work, because that's a Water-type Mimikyu. So, Mimikyu does 84 damage to the Goodra, so I know that there's at least a roll that I survive another Shadow Claw. And I sort of expect him to go for the Shadow Claw into that slot, expecting me to make the switch again. So I'm okay trying to get the roll and then attacking into the Steela, because the Glastrier, I think, beats the Steela one-on-one, depending on the Steela's set. But he does go for the Play Rough, picks up the KO there. And then I see Meteor Beam, and I'm like, well, alright, on to game 2. I lose this one, because as soon as this Power Herb goes off, I'm going to have an issue. And it's not Power Herb, so it's just going for a hard Meteor Beam into Glastrier. I'm able to pick up the KO on the Mimikyu. Glastrier's Chilling Neigh goes off. Bronzong can come on out. And because I am not AV, but I'm running Protect on the Glastrier, I'm able to just protect it. This Meteor Beam is definitely not picking up the Bronzong. And as long as this Inteleon doesn't have Taunt, Trick Room goes up, and I feel like I'm in a decent position this game. But I have to protect here, because Meteor Beam's coming out. So, Trick Room feels right here. Like, yeah, it's absolutely right here. Because then Glastrier will be moving first instead of the Steela, which is very nice. But we'll let this Aqua Jet come on out. So that seems like it's only a damaging move, so I'm very curious about this set. But the double up in the Glastrier into the Protect just lets me get up Trick Room. And this feels like a pretty clean game for me at this point. I can Icicle Crash and Body Press the Steela because I don't think this Inteleon actually has anything to deal damage to either of these guys outside of Aqua Jet, and that doesn't scare me into a Glastrier and a physically bulky Bronzong. But I think there's a chance that this Icicle Crash plus Body Press will pick up the KO on the Steela, which is pretty ideal for me. But there's also an argument for Light Screen if I think the Steela is bulky enough that it's going to survive this double up. Inteleon protecting is decently good for me. So Icicle Crash hits, which is nice. Missing would have made me sad. This is not going to pick up the KO from here. So Light Screen probably the better play. But I do think Body Press picks up the KO next turn. But even so, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if the Steela kills even without that flinch. And even if it does Body Press into the Celesteela, I think I actually beat that Inteleon one-on-one. So, while that flinch was fortunate, I don't think it was game-winning. But this high horsepower Body Press combo should pick up the game. And I feel pretty good about this set so far. If this Steela, for example, had picked up the KO, like if I'd missed here, Steela picked up the KO on Glastrier and was able to protect out of Trick Room and then Flamethrower, I'm running Aquaberry, so Bronzong would still pick up the KO. But I'll be right back for Game 2. So, looking at Game 2, I expect the Lopunny Volcarona lead because theoretically, that does really well into Goodra and Tangela. But this Goodra was designed to beat that lead, so I think the Tangela Goodra seems pretty clean here. And my thought is just if I do Trick Room in the back, what mode do I want to go for? Because the Torkoal would have been really good last game. And I don't think he brings Inteleon Coal again, so Torkoal is probably going to be really good this game. So I do want to just lead the Tangela Goodra, expecting the Lopunny Volcarona. If he leads Lopunny Mimikyu with the bulk up Mimikyu, I want Tangela Bronzong to set Trick Room in front of it, and then just have hard Trick Room in the back, but I'm sort of calling out what I expect his leads to be for this game. And then it's really big decision here if I want Torkoal or Glastrier. Like, there are arguments for both, but without expecting the Inteleon or the Coal, and also knowing the Inteleon set, Torkoal probably does more damage overall under Trick Room. Just Charcoal Eruption in the Sun, it does a lot, and that's sort of what I'm relying on here. But again, this is a really weird set overall, but he does lead Volcarona and Lopunny. I feel immediately great about this because I know where the goggles are, so I know Rage Powder redirects attacks into Tangela. A max bug is he might expect it like, let's lower this Goodra's special attack because he might think it's still special Goodra, and this max Rockfall will kill this Volcarona. So I'm feeling good about this choice. There's an argument to be made that Rock Slide could be better here, but it's an argument that I disagree with. because that doesn't KO a max Volcrona, and I sort of expect the turn 1 max here, and this just covers for that option. But he does not max, he just goes for the fake out. Tangela flinches, that's fine, and this Volcrona quiver dances, which is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, there's no way this thing survives a max Rock Ball here. So, Volcrona is very dead, and I feel like I'm in a decent position this game. Although he still has a max, and putting out Mimikyu in this position, not a bad choice for him. Like, there's a lot that could go wrong for me still, but that's about as favorably as turn 1 could go based on the leads that I was expecting. But that Mimikyu is still a problem for my current team composition and my current setup as well. So moving forward, my thoughts have to be break the disguise, don't let Lopunny trigger eject button shenanigans, and yeah, that's basically the whole premise. So Rage Powder to prevent eject button, and then Wormwood should have a decent shot of KOing this Lopunny unless it's incredibly bulky, and it will counteract any bulk ups that this Mimikyu tries to set. So this gives me a fighting chance against it, although if it starts bulking up and gets physically defensive, there can be an issue. Protect from Mimikyu is pretty ideal there. So I'm able to get Rage Powder up, and this Lopunny goes for a Thunder Wave. Okay, so it's a Thunder Wave shenanigans set. This might KO, but since it's the Thunder Wave shenanigans, it's probably very bulky, so there's a chance this doesn't, which it doesn't. So it's at least moderately bulky. I don't know my Lopunny calcs off the top of my head, so I don't know how maxed out that is, but it's at least 252 HP, and seeing that it has a Recovery Berry, I imagine that it has some defense investment as well. A Whirlwind will kill it next turn, but here the question is, what do I value more? Do I value the opportunity to break the Mimikyu's disguise with a Giga Drain into that slot, or do I value a Rage Powder to try to avoid paralysis on the Goodra? And the answer that I go for is breaking the disguise seems really important in this matchup. So that's what I'm going to be going for here. And he sends out Celesteela, so he understands that as well. So a Rage Powder would have been nice there. And then the Wormwind still comes out through paralysis, and I will take out that Lopunny. But now, in front of two paralyzed things, this Mimikyu is going to get basically a free bulk up. And although I'm up 4-2 here, I don't feel great. Tangela was paralyzed, so Rage Powder wouldn't have worked either. So I don't really get punished per se for my play, but it's not a great turn for me, even though I pick up a KO. Also, Mimikyu the Chipper, really cute name. Mimikyu, like, top tier Pokemon in terms of design. I love it. So here we've got some issues. We've got a lot of issues. I think trying to sleep the Mimikyu could be correct. Trying to break it could be correct. There's a lot of stuff going on here that I'm not necessarily a fan of. So I'm going to pull back the Goodra, send out the Bronzong, and he still has max left, so there's a whole lot of worlds where this goes very wrong. And bulk up Mimikyu is one of them. Especially because the Steela targets correctly, kills the Tangela, and now I've just got to pray to get Trick Room up, which I don't like my odds here. Maybe, I think Protect Tangela there would have been the play. Yeah, I should have protected Tangela there and then Rage Powdered. If I fade paralysis twice on that, then I win. But if it gets paralyzed one of those times, I don't win. But here, I think I just lose. Like, this is not a great situation for me. A Rock Slide breaking the Mimikyus could be okay if I get this Trick Room up. But +1 Max Phantasm I am not calc to live because I was not expecting it. So I'm pretty sure if Max Phantasm comes out into Bronzong, then it's a pretty clean loss for me this game. And it does, and it is a KO, which is about to be expected. Honestly, there was a chance that I lived that, I think. Not a good chance, but a chance nonetheless. And he would have just guaranteed the KO into the Bronzong with that. Now Gudra gets paralyzed. That paralysis doesn't matter. There's not a lot I can do at this point, because the Torkoal will come out. It won't die to the Mimikyu, but it also can only barely break the disguise. If that Trick Room came up and then something died, Torkoal would have a shot here, but without being under Trick Room, I need to Heat Wave instead of Eruption, which I don't think will kill this Celesteela. It might, actually, but in my mind it wasn't going to kill the Celesteela, and then it would have to, yeah, because this Gudra goes down. If I'm able to break the disguise here, and then, I don't know, maybe get Celesteela to miss, and then survive one attack from this Max Mimikyu, there's a world where that happens. Like, the Celesteela's Air Slash, for example, if that missed, there's a world where Torkoal pulls this out. But from here, there is not a world where Torkoal pulls this out, because Heat Wave doesn't KO the Steela, and the Mimikyu's disguise is not broken. So, just in the interest of giving myself every possible out, I'm going to protect the Torkoal, and then go for Heat Wave again, in case he's just running less than 100% accuracy moves, and then I just try to get some very, very favorable RNG, because I have no business winning this game from this position, but I might as well give myself the out in case. For example, if he clicks Play Rough for whatever reason and that misses and Air Slash misses, then Heat Wave comes out and then he misses again with Mimikyu. Like, we're talking infinitesimally small chances, but Shadow Claw just picks up the KO. But with that being said, we are going into a decisive Game 3, and I will be right back with that. So, going into Game 3, I decide Hard Trick Room is the way to go, because I believe he's going to lead the Mimikyu because he sees that's his most effective option. I want both Torkoal and Glastrier in this game, and this feels like the best way to do it. So, the only thing about this that makes me nervous is if he leads Mimikyu, I know I survived that Max Phantasm if Lopunny fakes out the Tangela and he Max Phantasms the Bronzong when I go for Trick Room. Unless he crits. If he crits, I don't know if I do that. In which case, anyone who saw my last MDL match knows that that is a possibility that I am very painfully aware of, a crit into a Trick Room setter on an otherwise free TR turn. But if he goes for anything like Helping Hand, it gets redirected because I know the Mimikyu doesn't have the goggles. So he needs to go for the Fake Out and the Max Phantasm into Bronzong and hope for a crit, because I survive every Max Phantasm that isn't a crit into Bronzong. So I'm sitting here really nervous because I'm like, I could lose, I could be out of the playoffs on a crit this very instant, and that would be very unfortunate for me. But it is the play to Rage Powder and go for Trick Room. Like, yes, if he plays ideally, there's a 6.25% chance I just straight lose here. But this is the play. And then Mimikyu doesn't max. Okay. Feeling better. And Rage Powder went off. So this Shadow Claw comes out. And Circle Throw sends the Tangela back. Okay. I'm feeling this. And it drags Glastrier out. So I just get free switch into Glastrier and Trick Room setup. Okay, so this is pretty ideal. Yeah, that was a pretty ideal turn. Like, I don't know if that turn could have possibly gone better. I've got to max this Glastrier because it's going to try and Circle Throw it, but it gets blocked by Dynamax. So I know this Lopunny has some bulk. Hailstorm will give me the best chance to pick up the KO on it. I'm not sure if it does. But Steel Spike giving me a defense boost against this Mimikyu is also not bad. I just sort of want to minimize the effect that Thunder Wave has on this match. I'm also considering attacking into the Mimikyu slot with a max Glastrier just to break the effect, which I don't really know how that should make me feel, but going into Torkoal feels right here. And then trying my best to pick up this KO on the Lopunny before it can do any kind of shenanigans, because I still only know Fake Out, Circle Throw, and Thunder Wave. And it's not Trick Eject Button, but there's a lot of weirdness that it could have on the set that I would rather not deal with, like a Thunder Wave into the non-Glastrier slot. If it's into the Glastrier slot, we're golden. But this Hailstorm has a chance to pick up the KO and also start chipping the Mimikyu a bit, but it doesn't. Like, that's a very bulky Lopunny. It's got to have some defense investment as well as 252 HP. It might even be max defense. Like I said, I don't know the Lopunny calcs off the top of my head, but that feels decently bad. But here, I feel pretty decently good, because Circle Throw hits the Glastrier, doesn't do a lot. If I was Weakness Policy, that would have been fun. But, as it is, I'm just going to be able to click Eruption with Torkoal here, and then Max Steel Spike the Mimikyu. So it'll break the Disguise, and then I will just do a decent chunk to the Mimikyu. He basically needs to max it here, because if he doesn't max it, there's no way he has the damage output and the survivability with anything in the back. Because I'm expecting Steela in the back, which would be very, very bad for him if he tries to max the Steela with Torkoal being near full health, especially if I'm able to get the sun back up again. But here, Helping Hand. So this Lopunny reveals the last move. I know what to be afraid of now. Eruption picks up the KO on the Lopunny, breaks the Mimikyu's Disguise, and then it's +1 Helping Hand, but I'm going to be going to +1 Defense here, which is pretty key. Because both of these things are very physically bulky already defensively, and this will just further help my odds of survival. So I think another Steel Spike gets me the KO there, especially after hail damage. So he's got to be aware of that as well, which gives me a bit more free reign to launch some other attacks. Torkoal's not clicking Eruption again. Heat Wave is now optimal. And we're looking at a pretty interesting situation here, because he knows that a Steel Spike kills, and a Steel Spike will also give me another defense boost on this Glastrier, which is very bad for him. However, Volcarona is interesting here, because Volcarona can threaten the Glastrier with the right sets, and I decided to make a call here, because I checked the Trick Room turns. There are 2 turns of Trick Room left. I think this is going to be the turn he protects, because he's protecting one of these 2 turns. I'm going to call that he protects this turn. I'm going to go for the KO into the Volcarona with the Max Quake. Although I very strongly consider that Steel Spike, and then I'm going to Heat Wave. If I make this call correct, then I'm going to be able to KO that Mimikyu next turn, and I'm going to feel pretty good. And he guards this turn. So I am in a great position if this Heat Wave connects on the Volcarona. Even if it doesn't, there's a chance I pick up the KO here. But now this Volcarona is definitely dead. And I go to +1 special defense, which is going to be important because like Celesteal is the only thing that makes sense in the back here. Like there's no way he has Inteleon with only Aqua Jet or Cole with no Inteleon if he's maxing Mimikyu. So that +1 special defense is going to be great against the Celesteela. Go to +1 attack. This Mimikyu will go down to a Smart Strike next turn. Because I'm at +1 attack now. And especially because I'm also going to be able to just launch a Heat Wave with it. So, the only nervy thing about this is, does this Celesteela have 4v1 potential? Because Torkoal is one of my better damaging mons, and it's one of the only things left. The damage from Hail will not KO the Torkoal in 2 turns, so he'll actually need to attack into it. But I basically need to guarantee this Mimikyu goes down. Heat Wave gets it to the point where if it's single target, Heat Wave will kill it. This Smart Strike picks up the Mimikyu, and then both my things are +1 special defense. He can kill the Torkoal here, but then I'll have a couple turns with +2 Glastrier to try and hit a Icicle Crash. But this Flash Cannon should not pick up the KO into Glastrier, and now I'm sweating. I am a sweaty mess because that crit could be very bad for me. Because it takes it to +2. I basically need to send out the Tangela here. I know if he protects, I'll still get 1 more turn. But with Trick Room ending, what needs to happen is I need to hit a Heat Wave. Because if I miss Heat Wave here and he takes out the Tangela, then he takes out the Torkoal. He'll be at +3 up against Bronzong. And the body press is not going to do enough damage even with Hail. And I think at +3, even after Akaberry, if I survive, I don't think I get a second attack off. I definitely don't get a second attack off. So he plays correct, 100% accuracy, kills the Tangela. I win if Heat Wave hits. If Heat Wave misses, it's actually it's a bit more complicated than that, because he will have to KO the Steela. He will have to KO the Torkoal, but it doesn't matter because it hits. Good games to Curry. This was an awesome set. Looking forward to the rest of the VBA playoffs. And I will be back at you guys later this week with other leagues and the VBA playoffs. I'll see you. Bye.